Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today with Minister Monte McNaughton. Minister and the wonderful team members at our ministry are doing truly an incredible job. I'm also pleased to welcome Mr. Salim Sadiq for joining us today. It is always a pleasure to see the resident of my riding of Mississauga Malton at Queen's Park and also serving the community. So thank you. Our government is laser focused on the health and well-being of workers across Ontario. Whether it is hiring over 100 new workplace inspectors, doubling the phone lines at our contact centers, or publishing hundreds of resources and guides. One thing is clear. We will have no stones unturned in our mission to keep our workers safe. To achieve our mission, we must confront those in our society who break the rules. Doing so protects both honest employers and, most importantly, our workers. That is what today's announcement is all about. And I know that Minister and I share the same goal as all of us here today, to make sure every worker in Ontario goes home safe to their loved ones at the end of the day. And that begins with ending the exploitation of workers. It is now my absolute pleasure to welcome Minister Monte McNaughton to the podium to share more about our ambitious plan. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Deepak, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be with all of you here this morning. I want to thank Deepak for all his work as my parliamentary assistant in ensuring that we're building back a better Ontario as we come out of COVID-19. I also want to thank Salim Sadiq, owner of Systems Staffing Solution, for joining us today, and he's going to speak in a couple of moments. In Ontario, there are over 3,000 temporary help agencies and thousands of recruiters. Most, like Salim here of Systems Staffing Solutions, are upstanding operations. They treat their workers with the dignity and respect they deserve while helping employers fill short-term labor needs. Unfortunately, some are lawbreakers who exploit their workers. This needs to change. Over the past 2 years, my ministry has focused inspections on temporary help agencies. The underground activity they found makes millions of dollars off the backs of workers by not paying minimum wage, not paying holiday pay, and not paying overtime pay. They also found recruiters charging workers illegal hiring fees and then clawing back their pay. This ends now. It's time we return these stolen paychecks to the workers who earn them and level the playing field for all agencies and recruiters. Today, I'm pleased to announce the most comprehensive plan in Canada to protect vulnerable workers and honest employers. Our plan, if passed, would require agencies and recruiters to get a license, pay a security bond, and be listed on a public online database. Those who fail to get a license or choose to use an unlicensed agency will face the highest fines in the country and could face possible jail time. We're shining a light on rule breakers and sending a clear message. Breaking the law is not a cost of doing business in Ontario. If you're not following the rules, we can and we will shut you down. We are taking these steps to help vulnerable workers, mostly young people, women, migrant workers, and newcomers who are being exploited by unethical agencies. My ministry is also taking immediate enforcement action. This year, we are hiring dedicated boots on the ground to crack down on labor trafficking. No worker should have their movements tracked. No workers should have their passports taken away from them. And no worker should be sleeping on a straw bed. Simply put, no worker in a province as prosperous and fair as ours should be going to work in fear. Our government will spare no expense to protect the health and safety of every worker in Ontario, regardless of their passport. These actions are strong, but we must be decisive to stop once and for all the bad actors from flourishing by breaking the law. I'm convinced our plan will create real lasting change everywhere across Ontario. We're working for workers so they can live and raise a family in our great province. And with that, I'll now turn it over to Salim for a few words. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you. Thank you, Minister McNaughton, for the kind introduction. And it is honored to be here in this legislative building first time. Our business connects talented people with the job that match their skills. And this lets companies in our community fill short-term labor while helping our neighbors to earn the income. As an employer, protecting our worker is our top priority. And it is important to keep them safe and ensure everyone is making equal or above a minimum wage. Thank you to the Minister for work with employers and recognizing the important role that we play in our communities. It is a pleasure to join you today here. Now I pass back to Mr. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Salim, and we're happy to take any questions if there are any.
How much of this is going to depend on workers actually calling in and complaining? As you mentioned, a lot of these people are newcomers, and a lot of them don't feel like they can call without putting themselves and their ability to stay in the country in jeopardy. Is this going to be proactive, or are you going to just wait for people to work up the courage to actually call?
Oh no, this is going to be proactive. I want every worker to know that they're protected under Ontario labour laws regardless of their passport status. We are immediately going to be putting boots on the ground to go out to temp help agencies to inspect and investigate those THAs and recruiters to make sure that they're playing by the rules. But most importantly, and what is going to build the most comprehensive system in the country is by creating this licensing framework to ensure that all temp help agencies and recruiters apply to the ministry for a license. And we're going to ensure that all workers feel safe here in the province.
How about another question for Mr. Anand? Do you have any numbers on how many of the enhanced certificates were downloaded over the weekend?
So you're confusing me with Minister Khalid, so that's totally fine. You're not the first one. We can definitely get back to you and can get you that answer, but we are happy and excited that we actually have a lot of our own resident called in to ask about the certificate. Thank you for the question.
So, Minister, there's a certain amount of skepticism about these measures, given that one of the first acts of your government was to repeal legislation that would have paid temporary and part-time workers at the same, or forced companies to pay temporary and part-time workers at the same rate as full-time workers. How do you respond to accusations that you're being a bit hypocritical by bringing in these rules now, given what you did earlier in your government's term?
Well, look, one of the first actions that I took was to begin building a plan to protect workers that are working with temp help agencies. I began this process when I became Minister of Labour back in June of 2019. I think certainly the pandemic has highlighted challenges and weaknesses across the province. Coming out of this pandemic, I want to build a better province back. This is the first in a series of decisive actions that we're going to be rolling out over the next number of days and weeks to protect workers. Quite frankly, when it comes to those vulnerable workers, those that are women, low-income workers, racialized workers that have been victims by those unscrupulous temp help agencies and recruiters. Like, this is an issue that should have been dealt with a decade ago. So it's been all governments of all different stripes that haven't taken action, and we're taking action today.
So you mentioned more steps to come, and you told the Building Trades Council in a speech last week that you're bringing forward legislation You're going to bring forward legislation focused on protecting all workers. So, can you give us some hints about what else is coming?
We're going to be rolling out a series of decisive measures to better protect all workers in the province. Today, we're taking action on temp help agencies and recruiters, those workers that work through them. I believe, as you referenced me speaking to about 250 labor leaders across the province last week, I believe that it's in workers' best interest to have government, labor, and business working together. That's how we're going to spread opportunity more widely and fairly. I have been very vocal on the opportunities that are out there in the skilled trades. These are jobs with defined pensions and benefits. I want to see more of those opportunities across the province, and we're going to be rolling out measures that improve the standard of living for workers, that ensure that they have bigger paychecks and more benefits.
Great.
Great.
Question, please, sir? Please, sir. Thanks. Could you just talk a little bit about what kind of jobs you place temporary workers in, and what are the things that you say you do that sort of differentiates you from the bad actors in this industry?
Yeah. Number one, the companies, especially after COVID-19 or during that time, they had a very hard time for their demand and supply. It was so fluctuating. And employment agency, or especially we fill in their needs. Sometime Monday to Wednesday, they're very busy, right? And next week, they're not. So the employment agencies are perfect that our one employee can work in two companies, and that's the way we serve the both parties, right? And more than half of our workers are paid above the minimum wage. So, and we try our best to do work together with the government and not to break the law.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen.